Silence as we think about that loss. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a portion of our meeting reserved for public comments. If there's anyone in the audience today who would like to address the board publicly, now's the time to do it. Just please raise your hand. Yes, please just identify yourself and come to the mic, please.
My name is Maggie Warenka, and I'm just wondering if the board would be reevaluating where the open enrolled current first grade students of Woodview attend school for the duration of elementary school. This is in light of the new numbers of students attending Kennedy at 76 pupils in the first grade for 18-19 school year, reaching almost capacity at 78, and only 17 students at Woodview for the first grade in the upcoming year. I myself, as an open enrollee parent, have brought my concerns forward in previous responses I received from Jeff Nelson, superintendent, was that these students needed to be moved due to the capacity issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, the consent agenda. There's two items, the approval of the minutes of the last meeting and the payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions, any additions, any corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes. We have some action items, Mr. Nelson.
Yes, so it's exciting for us. We're going to be recognizing some Grafton High School seniors, and then we have some school presentations as well. So we're going to get to see a lot of the students and the reason why you volunteer to be on the board, the work that you're doing to help students be successful, and our administrative team and our teachers and our parents working with our students to help them be successful. So a very, very rare occurrence. We have two high school seniors that are very rare to be honored in this way. And Elena Kinnear is a senior, and so Elena, if you'd come up here, that'd be great. Elena scored a perfect score of 36 on the ACT. Perfect score, and you think of like how rare is that? It's about 1/10 of 1% of all students who take the ACT score a perfect score on the ACT. So I'm not great at math, but 1/10. I didn't get a 36. I'd have to take it a couple times to add it up to that. But a 1/10 of 1% is very remarkable. And you think of like a state championship. We think a lot of times athletics gets a lot of kudos, which is great, and we want to recognize students that way. But we also have academic students that are doing some great things. And a perfect score on the ACT is just like a state championship. And so we want to congratulate her and thank her for all her hard work. Would like to maybe ask a question.
So how long did it take you to finish?
The ACT?
Yeah. Did you like buzz through that thing in like an hour and a half?
Unfortunately, they make it so that you have to do each section within a allotted time. So no, I took the same amount of time as everyone else did.
Okay. But you could have finished fast.
When you left, did you feel like you nailed it?
Actually, I thought I did pretty bad. I was kind of worried. But I had no idea that I had done as well as I did, so it was definitely a shock when I found out my score.
Did you take the SAT too?
I took the PSAT through Grafton, but I never took the actual SAT.
What's the next step as far as college? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I'm applying to 7 different schools, and I haven't heard back yet, so once I get admissions decisions, then we'll decide where the rest of my path is going to take me.
Do schools chase you down as hard as like that high-level quarterback that they want to come to these? Do people like you get that same kind of recruiting?
I've gotten some emails since the scores have come out, and I think the newspaper articles have helped with that, definitely. But not a ton. No, I haven't gotten much personalized. A lot of it's just a form letter of we see you received the score type thing. So.
So I think one of the biggest differences, too, is it'll open up scholarship opportunities for her. If you research a lot of that, when you get to that 29, it opens up levels. You get to that 32, opens up different levels, and you get to that 34, 35, 36, it's even crazier. And she just got it. Like, it's one thing, you haven't had a year, your senior year, you have a couple months left. So it's very exciting for our district. In my years in education, I've only seen a couple kids ever score a perfect score. And in recent history, we had someone years ago. But it's very rare for anyone to have that, and so it's very great for our district and great for Lena to be recognized in that way.
Congratulations.
And then also we have congratulations to Alyssa Alonzo on being named a state-level nominee for the National U.S. Presidential Scholars Program. And you might be wondering, what is the U.S. National Presidential Scholars Program? So basically, students are invited to apply for the scholar through 4 processes. The first is their ACT or SAT. Second is for students who excel in fine arts. The third is for students who demonstrate ability and accomplishment, career in tech ed. The fourth is by state superintendent nomination of students who have outstanding scholarship while overcoming hurdles or challenges. And that is the category that Alyssa is being recognized in. There are the Commission on Presidential Scholars in Washington, D.C. has received her information. She receives an application in January to apply. And then they'll do in February, and they're announced in May. So there's only 20 students, say that again, 20 students in our state that have been nominated for this. And so it's an amazing opportunity for her to be nominated in that way. Mr. Manta and I were joking that both of these young ladies have things on their resumes that we didn't have in this area here. So it's an amazing thing for her to be recognized in this way. We wanted the board to be aware of the academic scholarship and just the perseverance that she's exhibiting throughout high school and being recognized in a huge way. So congratulations. I'm sure the board would like to ask you something.
So the application process, what is giving you the most pause for getting it completed?
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, the application, what's on it?
Did you get the application yet?
Oh, no. So the
you-
first application that they sent me just to compete at the state level was in October, and that was due in November. So that was completed on time, and that consisted of looking at all that I've done, both academically and co-curricularly in high school, and then also 3 essays, one talking about my leadership and what I've done here in high school to show myself as a leader, one for a moment or one of my activities in high school that's really touched me, and then also one talking about the hurdles that I've overcome while keeping high academic standards. So in that I talked about being a type 1 diabetic for 7 years now. I was diagnosed in 2010 with type 1 juvenile diabetes. And also in 2015 I was diagnosed with celiac disease, which is another autoimmune deficiency. So just handling both of those while also trying to stay as well-rounded and involved in high school activities as possible is kind of what they were looking for my personal application.
What are those other activities you're involved in?
I've been involved in the band. I was drum major both my junior year and now my senior year, and I play 9 different instruments, so I spent a lot of time in band. I'm a music nerd, but I love it. And I've also played about 4 or 5 different sports throughout my high school career here for Grafton High School.
So what are your plans for the future?
Well, I did get accepted into Michigan State for their honors program, which was very exciting news for me. And I will hear back from Harvard in December, and then Madison in January, along with 4 other Ivy League schools, hopefully in mid-March to April area. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's pretty good. Like that's rare to have one of those things occur in a district at any time, and to have 2 occurring at approximately the same time is really just amazing. And kudos to the girls as well as their families. I'm sure they're very proud of them and so forth. So I have said that they can leave because they're also very involved in other things. So you're welcome to leave as we start on our next piece of it. That was the promise. Trying to get them here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're happy to move on to our schools presentation. Last time we'd moved, Grafton Elementary School was going to be presenting last time, and with at that point the accident with Ms. Rowland, we decided to move it to this month. And so we'll start with Dr. Knoll and Grafton Elementary School with their presentation.
Michaela and Ashley and Elizabeth, you want to come up, please? First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this evening and for allowing us to postpone given the nature of our sad news. These lovely ladies are part of a process that I want to acknowledge that our PBIS committee has put into place this year. We all know that an effective school focuses on having a climate where students feel connected, where they feel safe, and where the environment is conducive to optimal learning. And this is our 4th year of PBIS implementation, and we instituted a way to empower our students this year to contribute to a positive learning environment. Each month we focus on a specific theme, and November's was acceptance. And our new initiative is that students are nominated by staff as leaders of the pack. We're the Wolf Pack, and they have to be nominated by either a peer or a staff member for something that they're doing above and beyond. And the person that nominates anyone has to submit an actual form that's reviewed by our PBIS committee. And these 3 lovely people have actually earned the award. They're wearing their T-shirts on the back. Michaela, can you turn around? She is a leader of the pack. And I want to just read what was written, some little notes about what was written on their nomination forms. Ashley is a 3rd grader, and she was nominated because she's kind and polite. She's a leader in the hall. She's a problem solver, and she helps find solutions. She also includes everyone. Hunter Bramstead is a 4th grader. He's not with us this evening. He couldn't be with us, but he's a friend to everyone. He works hard in class. He shows respect to students and staff members, and he sets an example everywhere he goes. Michaela Baker, she showed courage. She wanted to play on the playground one day, but she was turned down. But she had the courage to go up to someone new and invite them to play a game with her, and then she invited more people to play. And then finally, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is in 4th grade, and she was nominated because she has the biggest heart, according to the person or people who nominated her. She's genuinely happy for other people's successes. She brightens everyone's day, and she always follows the Wolfpack way. So we are very proud of these leaders of the pack. Congratulations, girls. Do you have any questions of our leaders of the pack? If not, they can join their parents.
Are they all in the same grade?
Nope. Ashley's a 3rd grader, Michaela's a kindergartner, and Elizabeth's a 4th grader. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, girls.
And I'm going to pass out a chart that I like to reference in this next portion. Obviously, an effective school is one that uses data to identify how we can best impact student achievement. And this chart, and the one that you have a copy of, shows a process that we participated in the fall during our instructional student team process. After testing, we looked at our MAP data in the fall, and we found that there were greater percentages of students at all grade levels, 1st through 5th grade, that were considered high achievers but that hadn't made their targeted growth. We looked at that information not only across content areas in math and reading, but we also drilled down to focus on those strands within those content areas to determine where in reading and math we could make growth for those particular groups of students. In most cases, as you can tell from the chart, the percentage of high achievers that didn't make targeted growth is in reading versus math, which is not typical across the district. The one exception is in math in 4th grade, which is more typical of our district data.
So our grade level SLOs reflect the same alignment, and we know exactly which students we need to focus our student learning objectives on at each grade level. If you would...
You accidentally handed some
Did
of
I get you some of my notes? Does anybody want to read these? But obviously, because each grade level is challenged with the opportunity to make targeted growth with students who are actually harder to make growth with because they are at the upper percentiles, we know that we have to be very selective in using instructional supports and strategies that are research-based. So our faculty is actually meeting throughout the year at our faculty meetings, and we're working collectively as a staff to learn about what are those greatest influences on student achievement. And the ones listed there, you see what's known as an effect size. John Hattie is a person that you've heard information from Diana and from Mr. Nelson. And an effect size of anything over 0.4 will potentially help students to make a year's growth in a year's time. So the higher your effect size, the greater influence it has over teacher or over student growth. So we're learning in service to our students, and we're learning some instructional strategies and supports that obviously will have the greatest impact, and it has no bearing on students at either the higher end of the spectrum or the lower end. It's for all students. And obviously, these are students who are already high achievers, and so they know a lot of content, a great amount of skills, but we also know that they need learning opportunities that empower them, opportunities that enable them to be problem solvers, that enable them to critically think, that enable them to have voice and choice over what they learn. And I have two students that are going to tell you about a practice that, due to Ms. Ruland's expertise, they've been involved in throughout the year and will continue to be. So Amelia and Adam, can you come up, please? These are fourth graders from Ms. Ruland's homeroom.
I'm Amelia. And I'm Adam.
Come on, I hear you guys louder than that.
Genius Hour occurs every Friday at a scheduled time and when students have free time.
Each trimester, a student is able to choose a topic he or she is interested in. For example, you could do giraffes, robotics, throat healing medicine, football, donating school supplies, Germany, Philippines, dolphins, engineering, India, Alcatraz, family history, gaming, coding, video games, and health. Once this topic is chosen, the student has to write a proposal.
The student researches the topic using a 2-column note graphic organizer. Once we have learned all we can, we are able to begin working on our final project, which would be creating a Google website, a slide presentation, or another project. One student made a Jeopardy game for his project. Some reasons kids enjoy doing Genius Hour is because they get to choose what they want to learn about. They get to do 3, so they can do more than 1. It's individualized. You get to choose how you want to present.
It's a great way to challenge yourself. You can learn how to use different websites, learn from other people's topics, learn to take notes, learn how to research, and learn how to find good resources.
You can also create models or food. Ways we think this could help you in the future are when you're older, you might want to learn about your family history, and if you learn about your family history now, you can enhance in it later.
And if you're in high school or college and you learned about it when you're younger, you won't have to do a lot more practice when you're older, and then you could just know a lot when you're younger.
Both Amelia and Adam would like to share their proposals with you so that you see how formal the process is that they have to be approved prior to their beginning the research, so they'll just pass those around, and then if you have any questions for Adam or Amelia, they are very knowledgeable.
So is this your first trimester proposal?
This is our second.
That's our second right
What
now.
did you guys do for your first trimester?
I did giraffes.
And I did robotics.
Any other questions? We're very proud of them.
What was the final piece that you developed then?
Well, there's a spot on the bottom on there. You could choose like Google Sites, Google Docs, anything like by Google that you could do a presentation on.
Gotcha. Awesome.
And there were some other ones that we could do.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you
Great
very
job.
much.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Don't lose those sheets, I'm guessing. I need those sheets. Thank you, students and Dr. Knoll. So now Kennedy Elementary School is also with part of their presentation.
Right? Is this work?
Yes. Operational?
Turn it on. It is now.
Is your pointer?
Yep. It is.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Craig Gunderson. I'm the elementary principal at Kennedy. Thanks for having us this evening to present about our school. As we talk a little bit today, I wanted to go over some construction updates to show you some pictures about the progress to date. I'd like to talk a little bit about who we are and what we believe, and also feature a few groups of students as we move through the presentation. So if we look at our construction project, it is well underway, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of important pictures to you. This is the day that the construction trailer was actually brought in, and it was quite a dilemma as they were trying to figure out where they were going to actually bring it onto the site property and how they were going to get it down there onto the old playground area. But they jumped the curb on 11th Avenue, and they successfully made it down there. First things first, they set up the trailer and the porta potty. Check, check. Construction progress went rapidly as they cleared off the grass and pavement areas, asphalt and old playground. Moved through with pouring foundational walls and different footings. Built inroads, and the construction continued, digging deep down into the existing surface. Soon footings were poured and walls started showing up. And just to feature the pace of the work and courtesy of Mr. Nelson and his photographs, I'd like to show you the difference between Friday, December 1st. You can see two short walls of the gymnasium that are up so far. And the following, I believe, Monday, they're way up and around the corner. So it's pretty amazing to see how quickly they progress. And it's been a real joy to listen and to watch them as they have been working very hard on site. This is a view out of one of our 4th grade windows. Learning is still occurring. But the teacher said that it sounded and looked like Jurassic Park because there was the rumbling of the earth and then the large machinery right in front of the window simulating a dinosaur's head. And we've also been able to integrate some pieces interdisciplinary and bringing in people from Hoeppner. For example, this is Todd Wunderlich, and he's working with Mary Beth Starr's classroom in 2nd grade, and also Mr. Nelson, to make some connections about math, construction, area, and each of the three adults who are in here with Todd, Mr. Nelson, and Mrs. Starr made a connection about math, about area, measurement, and Todd got to show off his really cool laser rangefinder where he was able to put up a device, click a button, and then tell the immediate distance across the classroom. And then from there, they're able to calculate the area of that space. So it's pretty special to be able to include him and his expertise in the learning and in the progress of the project. What we believe at Kennedy Elementary School, we are truly an every student, every day school. We believe that all of us are learners and that there is no single expert. And I believe that this contributes to us being able to work together because instead of looking to one person or one person expressing leadership, it's all of us working together. And we believe that we can always take one step forward and help others do the same. And sometimes that's a baby step or sometimes it's a massive leap forward, but we all try to help each other out. We work together through things. It's one of the great strengths at Kennedy Elementary School. We try to do this every single day, but we also build upon different experiences. For example, we do have an annual kindness week. We believe that kindness is a foundation and a lifelong skill for adults and adult learners. And we do believe that kindness speaks all languages. We work very hard, but we also have a lot of fun too. And as I walk through classrooms and listen to teachers teach and watch students reading their books or singing or participating in their different classes, there is a great time investment that is being put into the school day and a lot of effort, but also we celebrate too and have fun while we're at it. And we try to do that each day and also with special experiences. I'd like to feature one of our groups at this time with our student council, and I'd like to have our advisors, Mrs. Gasiorowski and Mrs. Westphal, and then our student presenters, Blake Rao and Isabella Petrie, come to the microphone, please.
I'm Marjean Westphal, and I'm a first grade teacher at Kennedy, and this is my 13th year in the district, but my first year on student council, so I'm enjoying it, and I love to work with the children. One of the reasons I wanted to be on student council is after the kids leave first grade, I don't have as much contact with them, but I really enjoy working with them as they grow older and seeing how they've matured and are doing well.
Hi, I'm Shannon Gasiorowski. I teach kindergarten at Kennedy Elementary School. It is also my 13th year, but it is my third year as being a faculty advisor for Student Council. And I would say this is the third year Student Council has been at Kennedy, and each year we're growing a little bit more. And I would say this year with our new fourth graders and some new fifth graders, they are very excited, and it's really Marjean and I just sort of making it, putting a few touches on things, but it's all their ideas. It's all driven by them. They're always willing to, if a letter needs to be written, volunteering, posters made, they make them. Very motivated group, and it's very exciting to see them growing and helping our community and our school.
And they also wrote their own speeches.
So we have Blake and Izzy to present to you.
Hi, my name is Isabella Petrie, and I'm in 5th grade at Kennedy Elementary School. My teachers are Miss Langle and Miss Jacobson, and this is my second year in Student Council.
My name is Blake Rao, and I'm in 4th grade. My homeroom teacher is Mr. Perry. This is my first year on Student Council.
One goal we have in Student Council is to help others by coming up with service projects for our school to do.
Helping others includes our school, our local community, our state, and our country in hopes of making them a better place.
Another goal for ours is to make a school more fun for kids by sponsoring different school events and projects that help our school community reach beyond the walls of Kennedy. Motivating students to join us in helping is very rewarding.
This year so far, we have collected money and items for our military men and women overseas. Student Council was responsible for informing the school about this by making posters and reading announcements. Once the items were collected, we boxed them up and wrote notes of encouragement to the men and women overseas before mailing them out.
Last year, some of the activities we sponsored were Winterfest, Coin Wars, Coat Drive, and Family Sharing, Peanut Butter and Jelly Drive. We also made signs for our playground tree. Please don't climb on me. This was just one small way we felt could help preserve nature for our school grounds. We also tried to do a monthly Kennedy cleanup.
Some of the other projects we hope to continue this year are Winterfest and a toy and coat drive for those in need. Going forward, we plan to take on any other projects that come up or we see need the support.
I joined Student Council because I like to get involved with organizations that help others. I like to write and create projects to inspire others to make a world a better place for everyone.
The best part of Student Council is knowing you are doing good things for others. It also helps me learn how to work as a team.
We are proud members of John F. Kennedy Student Council and hope to encourage others to join.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do. How many kids do you have under Student Council?
I would say approximately between like 36 and 40. We've been varying. We have lost a couple, but have gained some as well. They're 4th and 5th grade students.
Has anyone ever told you guys you could do the voices on the Charlie Brown Peanuts cartoons? You guys, I can just see Linus and I think Peppermint Patty. Great voices you guys have.
No.
So when do you meet as student council? Is it during the school day, after school?
We meet every month. It depends on if we're doing projects, but we usually meet during recess and lunch.
Nice. Thanks, you guys. Good job.
Thank you, Student Council, and thank you, parents and advisors for coming as well. Okay. Moving on, beyond Student Council, we do a Girls on the Run Club each year, and I just wanted to highlight this group because it is a remarkable part about Kennedy Elementary School, where we have groups of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade young ladies join up with staff and also parent volunteers to work on fitness, wellness, healthy self-image, and what it means to be a successful member of society. And through our Girls on the Run program, we're able to inspire girls to be joyful, healthy, and confident. And through this process, they're able to make great friends. And there's a culminating activity where they run a 5K at the end of the 10-week program. And just this past weekend or so, they completed the 5K at Miller Park. And the venue changed from Bayshore Mall area to Miller Park because it has grown exponentially. And they're into the thousands of members and different sites of girls who are participating in this. But Girls on the Run is special because our students are able to make friendships with one another, learn peer mediation skills, learn what it means to successfully navigate friendships and conflict, learn how to compromise, and all of these skills are so valuable for 21st century learners. And they also incorporate a service project that's integrated so that they're serving our communities. And in fact, this year they serve the staff at Kennedy by doing small odd jobs and tasks around the school. And it was extremely helpful because the Girls on the Run students were able to really help out our teachers this year. It's a chance for students to connect with each other. We also have parents who run along with them. And it's just an overall great program that we're able to offer to our young ladies at Kennedy. And actually, Isabella was a member of Girls on the Run too, correct? Which is a great connection to show how involved Isabella actually is at Kennedy School. Moving into the final part of the presentation, I did want to touch on 21st century learning at Kennedy Elementary School. We are seeing Generation Z learners, those children who are between the ages of 2 and approximately 19. We are, after all, 17 years into the 21st century, so we better be working on this within our schools as well. Within our school, we're working on 4 big C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. These are foundational pieces for children who are going to be entering our workforces. We're preparing them for college and career readiness. And it's a foundation for higher level thinking skills. And I did want to highlight Bloom's taxonomy for 21st century learning, where creating is actually now at the top of the pyramid. So when we learn about Genius Hour and people over at GES working on this, or at Kennedy in a little bit working on Makerspaces, these students are creating. They are working to innovate. And we can see these within our projects and also within our curriculum decisions. Like when we're looking at possible new math curriculum, or we're looking at pieces within ELA and reading and writing, we're working on students being able to work with one another, communicate successfully, think deeply, and come up with creative solutions. So this does occur through special events and also through deep decisions at the district level. I'd like to highlight our Makerspaces. Through a series of grants and donations, we've been able to acquire, along with the other elementary schools and other schools, a set of materials mostly housed within a cart and different crates for students to create items, solve problems, and work on tasks together. Students can design, engineer, fabricate, create, build, and collaborate, and sometimes it's focused on a special project, or there's also an element of freedom and choice that is integrated as well. I'd like to highlight Jennifer Griffith and Lisa Rao, who have been working very hard at Kennedy Elementary School to teach our students and staff members and to involve them in 21st century skills, including Makerspaces. We're thankful for you and for all of your work with the kids and the staff as well. As an example, we had students who demonstrated their ability to create a playground piece of equipment. And through this challenge, students were working with a variety of materials to create a playground equipment that needed to be able to suit 2 different figurines, like little Lego figurines. And it had to swing, rotate, move, and it had to be a fun piece of equipment. But it was an example of students being able to partner together, to have a level of collaboration, but also some autonomy to express themselves as individual learners, to pursue a great Makerspace project. We've been talking about starting with the why and the reasons behind this. It's not just about students making a product, but it's about students being involved in a process that leads them through the 4 C's, where they're thinking, creating, collaborating, and working together. And it's really about students making a transition between being passive consumers of information and products to being discriminating and active creators and inventors. We're also fortunate because we have these great supplies, we have interested and fascinated students, but we also have staff members and staff trainers who facilitated a Makerspace staff development session with our teachers several weeks ago. And here you can see staff members working with different supplies, such as small robots, or planks, computers, elements of coding, and writing of mazes, and different programming codes to allow and manipulate our different Makerspace activities. Our teachers have really fallen in love with a lot of the supplies that we have, but it's about finding time to do it during the day and finding opportunities. And with Mrs. Rao and Mrs. Griffith working with us, we've been able to create those times either by setting up opportunities in the library or by taking the Makerspaces out to the classrooms. Those have been very powerful experiences. And not to steal a thunder of the upcoming presentation about the EdSpaces conference, this was seriously an accident. I would like to highlight that Miss Hemley, one of our 5K teachers, is working as a 5K teacher to create flexible learning spaces and places within her classroom where children are able to explore. They're able to learn better when they have some choice in their learning environment. And it allows them to build off of each other's strengths. And what we've found is that people work better when they have some choice over their environment. And I mentioned that to one of our teachers, and she said to me, "Craig, don't you feel the same way?" It's like, indeed, yes. When we do have some choice and autonomy over our learning conditions, we will be more productive. So in summary, I'd like to highlight that at Kennedy, we do work hard. We do have fun. We try to seek to make a difference and make an impact on those that we are working with each day. And we do this on a day-to-day experience and also through special opportunities that we work to create. I feel fortunate to be the principal. I feel fortunate to have a great staff who's willing to step up and take leadership roles, to try new and innovative things, to facilitate experiences for our kids and for our adults. And it's a blessing and a privilege to be the principal of Kennedy Elementary School. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And I know, just as I said to the high school students, parents and students, you're welcome to leave as well. And I'm sure you have a lot of things going on also, so thank you for coming tonight and letting us see great things. And hearing students talk as well is always exciting. It's a great skill for them to learn also. There's great things going on at our elementary schools, which will result in great things at the high school. Great job, you guys. Thanks, ladies. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, you were on.
Yes, so it is the night for presentations. So we have staff here. In October, we had gone to, with passing the referendum, as we were looking at designing of our spaces and everything else, there's a national conference called Ed Spaces, and so we were trying to figure out, as we're looking at our design fit choices and looking at flexible furniture and so forth, this seemed like a great opportunity to go to a conference and hear about that. So it was trying to figure out, well, look, we want to bring staff along, make sure staff voice is heard, and so then how do you select staff out of all the people that we have that are high quality staff? As Dr. Gutterson mentioned, Emily is a kindergarten teacher who's already using flexible spaces in her classroom, and was where that. Emily Lucarelli is a third grade teacher, and who's at GES and is also using flexible furniture. So the two of them are trying to use furniture. They're doing it on their own budget or through writing grants or being DIY. I heard that a lot from Molly. And Jennifer, Craig mentioned, is our LMC specialist across our whole district. So as we're looking at redoing all of our LMCs, she obviously has a hand in each of our designs at all of our buildings. Mr. Manti and I rounded out our group of 5, with the high school having the most things happening, and with some traditional spaces that we currently have, and not being able to create maybe some flexible spaces. We're going to need furniture to be able to do that. And so it was a great opportunity for me to get to know the 3 of them. I know Mr. Manti, obviously, from working with him in the past, but I did not know these 3 ladies, and truly a great privilege to work with them. So we have a short presentation for you that they're going to lead.
Okay. Are you going to click through for us? I can. Okay. Thank you. So we are going to actually start with a video from Jamie Kassup, who is the chief evangelist for the Google Education, and he speaks really well to this topic of how our kids and learning in general is changing. So we'll start there.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I am the Chief Education Evangelist at Google. So how do we prepare an economy, how do we prepare an education system to support a knowledge-based, a global-based, a connected-based economy that we face, that our students face? In 1973, 28% of the jobs required some kind of post-secondary education. Today, that number is 60%, and it continues to increase. We recognize that we need deeper skills, knowledge-based skills, to focus on the economy that we're facing. And so that's what I want to make sure we do. Now, to do that, we got to start asking different questions. A question that we often ask our kids that I think we need to stop asking, which is, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want us to ask our students a different question, which is, what problem do you want to solve? What problem spins in your head? What are the knowledge, the skills, and abilities that you need to solve that problem? What do you need to learn to solve that problem? Who can you collaborate? Students today want to solve problems. One of the things that we want to do, we want to make sure that we focus on is how do we get our kids to focus on the problems that they want to solve by developing the knowledge, the skills, and abilities that they need to solve that problem. These is a picture here of our science fair winners for Google, and they've been able to solve some amazing problems. We have 15-year-olds who have been able to create tools and services and products all focused around problem solving, and that's unbelievably unique to be able to do that. We live in a world of consistent iteration, so how do we make sure that we focus on our students so that they're always iterating, always learning, that there is no end point in the world that we live in today? We often talk about collaboration. We want to make sure our kids are collaborating, but the truth is, we don't really mean it when we talk about collaboration in education, because education is really set up as a single-player sport. The problem is, we don't live in a single-player world. We live in a team-based world. And so, imagine as a teacher, you hand out a test, and at the end of the test, 2 kids come up to you holding the test together, saying, we decided to combine our skill set and work on this together. What would your reaction be? Now, flip that into my world. Imagine me going to Sundar, the CEO of Google, saying, here is the education strategy. I did it all by myself. Oh, did I talk to anybody else? No. Did I work with any other team? No, I swear, I did not work with anyone else. Right? We live in a world of real collaboration. We need to teach our kids how to really collaborate. How do we make sure our kids are developing what we want to make sure they have, which is a collaborative skill set so that they can work in a global economy across the world. And then we want to make sure that us as educators, as teachers, that we kind of change the format of what it is that we're doing in our classrooms, because we no longer have to memorize everything. Memorization is still important. Like, I still want my kids to memorize their multiplication tables. I still want our kids to memorize facts and figures so that they have them at the tip of their minds. But we also have to think about what is it that we do with that information, and how do we convert that information into intelligence. For example, I saw something a couple months ago that said that 7% of Americans can name you the first 4 presidents of the United States. And so you ask yourselves, that sounds like it should be a bad thing. Or I can give everyone in this room 30 seconds and all of you can tell me who the first 4 presidents are. So it's no longer about knowing who the first 4 presidents are, it's about asking deeper questions. The better question isn't tell me who the first 4 presidents are. What are the 5 things that the first 4 presidents agreed on together? What are the 4 things they disagreed on? You get into a deeper conversation about meaning, and guess what? You still have to know who the first 4 presidents are. So our job is to help students take all the world's information and convert that information into intelligence. I get to see this in action. I get to see what's happening in the space. And I can see these student-centric learning models where we're seeing kids be the center point of education and having them drive. I'm talking about personal learning, where kids can use their perspective, their point of view, to actually drive the things that they want to learn. The world is changing before our eyes, and education is changing before our eyes. If you are involved in education, you, the teachers in this room, you are going to drive what the new education models are going to look like for generations to come. So I want you to think about this 1.5-year-old, and then I want you to think about whatever device you have in your pocket or in your bag, whether it's your iPad or your iPhone or for me it's this Nexus 6, and I want you to realize that this technology, this device that I have in my hands, this is the worst technology that this girl will ever see in her life. These are the kids that we're building our education systems for. Do we have the right processes in place? Are we asking the right questions? Do we have the right models in place? That's what you guys are here to do. That's what you guys are here to learn about, but this is what we're doing in education, and I couldn't be more excited.
So Jamie was one of the keynote... Jamie was one of the keynote speakers at the conference, and it really helped us think about not just like what are the pieces of furniture. It's not just about the furniture. It's really about what our students need, how the things need to be organized, and the overall idea of how we engage kids in our learning. And it was really good to help focus kind of the pieces of our learning.
Sorry. You guys very much for...
Maybe escape. And then...
That's what I thought I did.
All right, so we just wanted to talk a little bit about where we...
Here, this may work.
Yeah.
Just like...
Oh, the clicker.
Dr. Dennison was using.
Thank you. Love a good clicker. Okay.
Oh, turn it on. I forgot to turn it on.
Okay. All right, so we wanted to start off with what we want Generation Z to be able to accomplish. And right now, from kindergarten all the way through high school, it's our responsibility, because it wants to go faster than we want. Anyway. There we go. We want them to be able to think. We want them to be able to collaborate. We want them to be able to create, respond to change, and problem solve. But we can't do that if we're stuck in a more traditional learning environment. We need to give kids an environment in which they can engage with each other, small group, large group, and in a manner that they can move themselves. If we think about large clunky desks in rows and columns, we say, quick, get into small groups. You're like, bringing everything around. It would take forever for them to get started. We want to make sure that we're creating those environments that kids can create for their learning and what they do. Go ahead. So again, as he referenced in the video, we need to stop asking kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Jobs like a cashier in a grocery store are becoming obsolete. I know I go to the self-checkout lane myself much faster. So we need to start making sure that we are giving kids opportunities to solve problems instead of just channeling them into one specific job that they can fill one day. So we need to give them opportunities where we are showing what skills they need to be using to solve these problems. And one of the things that we talked about at the conference, which kind of shocked me a little bit, is right now we have students in school that could be alive in the 22nd century. So now we have to start talking about 22nd century learning skills and what that looks like. So Generation Z already views learning differently than the generations before. They're already thinking globally, they're already thinking socially, and they're already thinking more technologically than we were in our generation.
Okay, so what are the challenges? Let's trade. What are the challenges of achieving this with our current learning environments? So our current education system, like Jamie said, is a single-player sport. We assess every student for their individual work, which there are some things that, you need to know what they need to do, but we also need to know how they work together. And that's probably a bigger thing that we need to figure out, how we still assess individual knowledge, but also how to work together to create and learn together. So we talked about global learning, so connecting with experts in and out of our community. So this is one of the pieces of furniture that we really liked. So it has a table where there's a TV there. You kind of can see that in the middle of the table there's a hole, so there'd be some cords that could come up through that hole. So individual students could connect to project their work. They could collaborate together. They could be working all together on what's on the screen. They could have their own individual devices. Many of the tables also have whiteboard surfaces, so they could be writing, taking notes, working together, all sitting on some unique furniture as well.
Students are also learning socially, and you can see some types of furniture here. You want to be my Vanna? Thank you. Here we actually used this to create this presentation, and we saw people working at this. Those are seats around a center area where people could collaborate. And then the desks you see there can be configured in many different ways, depending on the need, depending on the project that's going on. They can be used individually or put together in different ways. And so people can work together. Students are learning visually. Here's some ways that they can show their thinking, show their learning process, and show their products with whiteboards that can be removed and then hung to be shared. Tables that can be written on, and the learning can happen in a group setting.
Okay, so the last way was technological. So a piece of thing that we talked about a little bit, but was actually not that visible at the conference, was the actual technology in the classroom. So what does that look like? Is that iPads? Is that Chromebooks? Is that interactive flat panel TVs? So what does this technology, how can we leverage the technology to enhance opportunities for kids to connect with each other and or outside of the building with other experts?
Big takeaway, the impact goes farther than the students we work with face-to-face. The impact goes on for generations.
Do you want to talk about it? It was your slide.
This is my own contribution. It's not a very good picture because we were a ways away from it, but it talked about skills needed in the workplace. And the first thing you'll see up there is 51% when they've surveyed businesses, they want problem solving is really the number one skill that employers are looking for. And then it goes down to teamwork, communications, critical thinking, creativity, literacy, digital literacy, leadership, foreign language, emotional intelligence, and then not applicable. But that really was a big takeaway from us, was like the whole problem-solving piece is really standing out, and how are we challenging students to think like that? How are we making sure, and we talk about grading, how are we giving them feedback on those types of things? You heard both GES and Kennedy talking a little about that tonight, so it ties in with what we're trying.
The next few slides are some of the items we saw that Molly's laughing because she really likes these stools. So I don't know if we're just going to click through this. This stool is it can be flipped. One side it will wobble, the other side it will remain stable. We saw the hanging whiteboards before. Storage is a key component with flexible seating. It has to be easy to access, easy to put away, and get out of the way. I don't know if you can tell from this photo, it's quite a low table with sort of low seats that are maybe a foot high, maybe.
Yeah, I would say that.
All of the sessions that we went to had variety ways of seating for us to try out, and this was one of the tables that we sat at. I really enjoyed that one. I like that one. Again, more slides of things like we've seen that table before with the stools. It's connected to the monitor, and more white surfaces to write on.
Can I actually add one thing to that?
Yeah. Please do.
These are a couple of high school related pictures that we took. So the picture on the left could be something, for example, as far as a vision for the collaborative spaces that will be back here in the media center. So as students have the opportunity to go and work together, writable surfaces, being able to project their work onto a TV, being able to work together in that sense. So that could be the vision for one of the collaborative spaces that we'll have.
And Scott, do you want to continue speaking? We have your slides from your presentation from
Yes. So just the last two I thought were cool because I was in another presentation that talks specifically about the remodel of a couple of high schools, and a couple of high schools that have really adopted this philosophy of flexible furniture. And I thought this was particularly interesting because it's if you go back to the math one, so that's actually a high school math classroom. And normally you would see high school math in rows and chairs attached to desks. Like what you would see here by looking at the pictures is they're writable surfaces on all of the walls. So kids are up, they're moving around, they're writing, the teacher can circulate, there's all kinds of different furniture. So just really a different philosophical approach, which I feel could benefit some of our students in terms of having different opportunities. Then they did the same thing with science, and I just wanted to take a picture of both math and science to just show an alternative setting for learning.
And that was our last slide. Does anyone have any questions?
Do they provide any statistics as to generally what % of students learn better in that environment that Scott just described there? I mean, and he prefaced it, some students will excel, others might find that kind of intimidating.
And that was actually something we had all commented on as well. Statistics, they did not share very much with. However, Bev is also using it in her classroom. I'm using it in mine this year. Already this year, by December, I have students that know where they learn best and know which seats and placement in the classroom they feel that they can best learn. So most of the time, they are voicing and choicing every single day. Every single day could be a different spot for them. And they have come to me and said, please, no, can I not sit here? Absolutely, find a better spot for you. And there's kids that'll go, oh, I worked so well here yesterday. Can I sit here again? Absolutely. Very little I say no, only if it's like I really just want to sit next to your best friend. but most of the time they are advocating for themselves, saying, nope, this is a great choice, or please help me find another spot. So I don't know if that, if you want to speak to that for kindergarten.
not so much in my classroom, but if you're talking about, our role as educators, we need to encourage students to work together. And is that what you're saying? They might be uncomfortable with that kind of learning? And I think that's our role. As we talked about, this is what they need in the workforce. They need to be able to collaborate, work together, share their ideas, share their expertise. More and more we become more specialized as far as where our greatest understanding is. So encouraging them to work in that way, I think from a very young age, will just make it easier and easier to fit in.
But to also answer your what if they don't want to sit in a certain place, at least in my classroom there's a traditional table and chairs, there's traditional desks with chairs. They can swap out a yoga ball for a chair. I have tables that actually sit on the floor, so they are sitting on the floor, on cushions at the table. I have kids that want to sit on their knees. I have kids that just pace around randomly around my room. And I also have those stadium seats that you usually bring to like football game, where kids are sitting on the floor with a lap desk literally 3 feet in front of the smartboard as well. So there's a lot of variety, so every kid will find something that suits them.
And that was one of the takeaways from talking with both Bev and Molly about their experiences they're currently having is I remember you even saying, like, you wanted things to look a certain way, and they kept moving it, and you'd move it back at the end of the night, and they'd move it, and you finally said, oh, okay. They're telling you where they want it, but that you need different things. It isn't just like we're going to buy one stool, and now you're all going to sit in it, because now we're just trading a desk that's attached to a chair for a stool. That's not what we're looking for. But it's also important to have it be flexible, that they can move. And we even saw that ourselves when we were at one of the final sessions and we were trying to collaborate, and my chair wouldn't spin, and it was just like, well, I just sit here like this. I wasn't as engaged because it was easier to move my chair over or roll over. Why would I go all the way over there and carry my chair over there? So we were laughing even as adult learners how it affects us also.
I loved at the conference how Molly talked about it, that each of the sessions had different furniture in it in the space, so every space was outfit with a variety of flexible furniture. So you actually got the opportunity to sit on it and to see what does this feel like to sit on for 45 minutes? And not that we want our kids to just sit for 45 minutes, but after that long, it's like, oh, maybe this isn't the greatest chair, or oh, I really like this chair, or whatever. So you got to experience them in a kind of like a classroom sort of setting.
And I think also what's worked for me in looking for things that can do more than one thing. I have benches that hold book bins that also can be sat on or can be used as a table. So trying to find that multi-purpose table.
I'll say my middle daughter is in Mrs. Lucarelli's class, and it's had a huge impact for her. And some impact. I drop her off usually in the morning, and Mrs. Ebel has not opened the door usually, and we're there. We're 10 minutes earlier than we used to be. She cannot wait to get to school, and she was, I would say, a little bit reluctant prior to that, where she just wants to get there now. I'm like, they don't even open the door until 8. We're just going to sit in the car. We can't go in, but our feeling is, my wife and I said this in a meeting we had, but it's going to be really hard for her not to succeed if she's just dying to get to school. I mean, so kudos.
So one of the things we were able to do too is they had the site tours, and we were able to see some really old buildings that had been reconditioned. It was a charter school, and we were able to see what people with bricks and things that couldn't change, how they still made them open spaces at the various levels, and it was
lots of transparency.
Yeah, lots of transparency, and we were interested in small spaces, how it seemed bigger, and what we could be doing in our own classrooms. So it isn't just having to build brand new facilities; it's also utilizing what we currently have also.
It's definitely a change of mindset, but I think it's a change of mindset for the better.
So moving forward, we're talking about having this be something that we'll share with staff, looking for people who want to pilot some of these options, because this isn't something that everyone's comfortable with. Not all students are comfortable with. Not all teachers are comfortable with this. But we have 2 people in our district who are currently piloting it now in their buildings and in their classrooms, and they're doing a great job with it. And I appreciate the expertise that they all brought to the conference and the leadership you're seeing here tonight.
I appreciate the opportunity to go to the conference. It was inspirational.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the final piece I have is we talked about sending out the placement exception survey. So we sent that out last week, and we've had 10 people respond. It was about 25 people that we sent it out to. So we'll send out a reminder before we head into winter break, and we'll send one out right after break. So we'll have data for you for the next board meeting in January to look at that. How making exceptions for 1 year would help her class sizes with that. So just an update with that.
Okay, great presentation. Thanks, Principal. The ladies got out of here before I say it, but really great presentation set. This was really fun. Thanks a lot. Great. Okay, so moving on. I presume we're turning this over to you, or Jeff, or something to preface our resolution.
I'm done.
Yeah, so last meeting, we approved the concept of issuing debt for the completion of energy-saving projects, the debt payments of which would be paid for through these savings that are realized through the projects. We were also hoping to approve the issuance of notes, but we didn't have any bids last time. But we did receive at least one bid this time, and so Mr. Justin Fisher is here from Baird, who now knows more about the Grafton School District than he maybe wanted to know. He's going to go ahead and present the bond, the note issue information.
Thank you. It's always exciting hearing about the different districts around the state. But so, as Topher alluded to, the district went out for bids this morning, and I'll just kind of run through the presentation you have in front of you. Stop me at any point if you have any questions on this. But if you flip to page 2 of the presentation, thank you. So the bids were taken at 10 o'clock this morning, and as Topher alluded to, there was one bid that was received for the district. It was Oppenheimer at 3.73%. And really to give you kind of background on what's been going on in the municipal market, as you probably have heard, there is a tax reform proposal out there. And it's really kind of affecting the municipal market with an influx of supply of municipal debt issuance coming to the market between now and the end of the year. We're seeing, because one of the provisions in the tax reform is the elimination of advance refundings for communities like you, so you cannot refinance debt more than 90 days from the call feature. So that's been bringing a lot of communities, large issuers, to the marketplace to take advantage of that refinancing opportunity before the year end when the tax provisions take place potentially. So typical market on a weekly basis, you're seeing $7 billion in municipal debt issued. Right now we're seeing $22+ billion. So it's a huge supply coming to the market, which is why you're seeing underwriters a little hesitant to be purchasing debt because they have maybe 50 other financing deals that they're taking a look at, and so it's really pick and choose at this point on what you want to potentially bid on. So that's why you're seeing a market where you're not seeing as many bids as maybe you would like, as you would have hoped. But as Topher said, this is a note anticipation note. This is a short-term interim financing before the long-term financing. Hopefully at the end of the year, when all the supply is kind of absorbed, and then the tax provisions come into play, a lot of that supply will have been dried up, which will, supply demand, hopefully force interest rates to go the other way, starting at the beginning of next year. But we'll see. We don't know exactly how that's all going to play out. But so this was a note anticipation note for the amount of $2,160,000. The closing date is going to be December 21st of 2017 with a final maturity September 21st of 2018. First interest payment date is going to be September 21st of 2018, and it's callable March 21st of 2018. It is non-rated because of the short nature, and the interest rate is a 3.73%, and the winning underwriter is Oppenheimer. So on the next page, this gives you the financing detail of the whole project. You can see on the left side is your current Fund 38 existing debt service. Then if you move to the right, that is the note anticipation note for the $2,160,000. It's short-term interim financing. And then come beginning of next year, spring of next year, March, April timeframe, that's when the district would lock in long-term interest rates going out the full 20 years for the debt. The estimated energy savings is to the right of that, and so you can see how the debt service payments are essentially almost matching that energy savings on an annual basis. And then you get to your Fund 38, debt levy existing plus new. So any questions on the financing and what the plan is going forward?
All right, then I guess we'd need the motion to approve the resolution.
Motion? So moved.
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'll have things for you to sign before the end of the evening.
So are we keeping it with you, Topher, with the property tax bill information?
We are. So I have a presentation set up. I'll get to use my pointer. The PowerPoint? No. Is it on the screen already open? The PowerPoint?
Oh, it's PowerPoint. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was getting this.
That's, yeah, I'm old school, I guess. All right, so here we go. So tax bills were sent out last week, started arriving at homes. With those tax bills arriving, the town, the village, as well as the school district started receiving some questions as to information on the tax bill. So working with people from the village, from the town, as well as people at the Department of Revenue, and I want to thank them all for their help in working together to come up with answers to some of these questions. We've got this information to provide. It's a good time to take this opportunity with questions that are just coming out now and are fairly fresh to address those tonight. So the first question, what is the voter-approved temporary tax increases that are referenced on my tax bill? So on everyone's tax bill, right above the payment coupons, and I've highlighted it here in yellow, you have information, and it's called voter-approved temporary tax increases. This information is basically referencing the impact, or the levy, the tax amount related to the referendum that was passed just this past April. Now I'll point out that throughout the spring we presented this at numerous informational sessions. We published it in mailers. We also included it on our website. Now we talked about throughout the spring how a decrease in existing debt payments would lower the mill rate impact by 72 cents, $72 per $100,000 of equalized property value, and new debt would add $1.38 or $138 per $100,000 for a net increase of $66. The point I want to make here is that that portion of the tax bill only shows the new debt, only shows that green portion. Nowhere on the tax bill do they pull out and show the impact of the reduced payment on the existing debt or the debt from 2001. I think that's an important thing to note because people might be expecting that to reflect the 66-cent estimate, whereas it actually is just showing that new debt increase of what we were estimating to be $138 per $100,000 of property value. As we started comparing bills between the town and the village, question came up as to why the tax bills, the tax bill portion related to the county, MATC, as well as the school district, increased more in the village than they did in the town. Now, to really address this issue, and we'll take a look first at what those changes were. So this is taken from a couple sample bills we had, and you can see how the county and the MATC tax bill actually decreased in the town, but the village saw an almost 6% increase for those portions. And likewise, for the school district, the town saw a 4.5% increase on that particular tax bill, while the village realized a much higher tax increase related to the school district. This is another view of that in more graphical fashion. So again, we worked with the town, the village, Department of Revenue to look into what was driving this. And so we have to start, to answer that question, we really have to start and go back to October when we certified the levy of $18.6 million, highlighted in yellow. We basically took that and applied it against the equalized property value of $1.65 billion to come up with that mill rate of $11.27. Again, this is a 66-cent increase per $1,000 of property value. Now, before moving on with the explanation, I will mention, I'll talk a little bit about what equalized values are. Those are basically the fair market values in municipalities as determined by the Department of Revenue every year. These are used to determine the municipality's fair share of the levy for the school district, for the county, for the for MATC or whatever tech college district you might be in. This is also used to calculate the tax rate resulting from that levy. In our case, it was that $11.27 tax rate this year. So this is how it worked this past year. You can see down here that $18.6 million levy. After that's approved, that's submitted to DPI. DPI uses the Department of Revenue equalized values and apportion it to each municipality based on how much of the district's equalized value they have. So, for example, the village has 64.21% of the equalized value in the district. So they get 64.21% of the levy. I'll point out, every time I reference equalized values or assessed values today, it does not include the property value in TIF districts. So they take the property value in TIF districts out to make these calculations. So you can see the village received their quote-unquote fair share, as did all the other municipalities in the district. And then you can see that the mill rate, the total mill rate, is then reflected as also that mill rate for each community when you apply it against the equalized value in that community. Now each year equalized values change. Each year the Department of Revenue makes a new determination of how much equalized value exists in each municipality. Now this past year, our equalized value in the district as a whole increased by nearly $52 million. You'll notice that the village of Grafton accounted for almost $50 million of that $52 million of growth in equalized property values. Their equalized property values increased almost 5%. When you look at the town, they had almost no increase at all in their equalized property values. What that does is it means this year, the 2017-18 levy, a larger portion is then, as a percentage, is given assigned to the village. You notice their portion increased by about 1%. The town, on the other hand, receives a smaller portion of that tax levy as a percentage. That dropped 1 percentage point. In real dollars, when that's applied, the tax levy apportioned to the village then increases by 11.5%, whereas the town of Grafton has their increase amount to about 6.28%, a much smaller percentage. That sort of leads to the question, well, if the village has all this additional equalized property value, then wouldn't that be able to absorb the extra levy that they're being apportioned? And so that leads to a question of, a discussion, I guess, of what equalized property values are versus what assessed property values are. And so, as I mentioned before, equalized values, they're fair market values determined by the Department of Revenue for each municipality, and they're used to determine each municipality's fair share of the levy. And again, this is for the school district, this is for MATC, and this is also for the county. Assessed values, on the other hand, are determined annually by each municipality. In a sense, they do the same thing that we're required to do. They use those assessed values to determine a property owner's fair share of their tax bill. So, for example, just like the village of Grafton had a larger portion of the district's equalized value this year, and they received a larger portion of the levy, a property owner whose assessment increases more on average than everybody else's would receive a larger portion of that property tax bill from the village or the town or whoever. Now, what is really plain here is the village's assessed values didn't reflect the Department of Revenue's nearly 5% increase in equalized values. In fact, assessed values in the village decreased by 1%. Most of this decrease is a result of the depreciation of commercial property as homeowners, residential properties remain fairly flat. This results in increased pressure on the existing residential tax bills. And that drop in decreased value overall means there's no additional assessed value to absorb the additional property tax levy that they're receiving from the MATC, from the county, and from us. So if I were to wrap it up and sum it up, the state increased the village's fair share of the tax levy as a percentage this year for the county, for MATC, as well as the district, because of their increase of equalized values relative to the town. Assessed values in the village decreased, therefore there's no additional assessed property value to absorb their larger share that they were given by the state. In addition, decreasing commercial property values in the village are increasing essentially the fair share of the tax bills that are being sent to the residential properties in the village. These factors are what are causing town residents to receive smaller property tax increases than village residents are receiving. I would also note that this shift in taxes from the town to the village does not change the fact that the tax rate increase from the district was $66 per $100,000 of equalized property value. And again, I would like to thank the people at the village and the town and the Department of Revenue as we all kind of discussed and talked about some of the issues at play here. Are there any questions?
Topher, you said the TIF districts don't count in the equalized?
Correct, yeah. So when they call it the TIF out value. That's what we apply our levy against to come up with that rate.
So the decrease in commercial property would just, my assumption is there's significantly more TIF financing or TIF districts in the village than the town?
I would believe so.
I guess that's not really your department, but that would exacerbate that issue in the village. That Meyer's not paying. My understanding generally with TIF financing is you pay on the unimproved property value, which for that was probably almost nothing compared to what it's worth now.
So that 1% decrease in commercial property, that is outside the TIF. That's what happened outside the TIF.
That'd be a lot more. They'd be assigned a significantly higher portion of that bill if they were paying taxes on that, the assessed value of that property.
So you mean if the TIF wasn't?
Yeah, if it wasn't a TIF district.
Well, certainly, yeah, they would absorb quite a portion of
instead
that tax
really gets pushed to residents, right?
Correct. Yeah, when the TIFs come online, a portion of the levy is going to be moving on to the property that had been assigned to the TIF districts. And again, if values are going down for commercial property and residential assessed values are staying where they are, then the residential properties have a larger portion of the value in the district. They get a larger portion of the tax bill, just like the village gets a larger portion of the levy when it comes to our apportionment.
Has the village offered any explanation as to why the assessed values in the village decreased?
They have not, no.
Can we at least inquire?
Yes.
Each municipality, village, as I understand it, assess in their own way, in their own manner, right?
Correct.
So I'm just curious if they have any insight that we might get.
Yeah, the interesting piece would be why the disconnect between what the state says the village has versus what the village says they have.
The other thing, and Toka, I don't know if you want to talk about that there isn't, and I don't know what to call it, an error, or I don't know what you call it.
It was yes, the assessed value ratio is incorrect. The village was required to put that incorrect amount on. Some information was handed off to the state after a certain deadline. So the ratio of assessed to equalized is actually about 89.5%, but on the bills it shows it as over 90%.
And that's important because if you understand the formula, you can try to calculate the mill rate using the current village tax statement. It'll show an $11.43 mill rate. But it's because that factor is not correct. If you put the right factor in there, it comes out to the $11.27. That's what the increase actually is, that's 66 cents. There still is a question in my mind if you apply that $11.27 to the final numbers of assessed value within the village. It looks like they would collect a significantly larger amount of taxes than our $11,950,000.
Yeah, that'll be a follow-up question that we'll send off to the village to get some clarification on.
So going forward, can these ratios fluctuate again? I mean, we're talking about the village assessment being low, but assuming can it go up and then it shifts the paradigm?
It can. I mean, these are going to change each year.
Right.
And the state now requires that municipalities' assessed values be within 90% and 110% at least once every 5 years. So every year that assessments are done, they're going to shift. I think last year the village had a 95% assessment to equalized property ratio. I happen to know that looking at the town tax bill, their ratio last year was 93%, roughly 93, 94%. Now it's at pretty much 100% from the assessed value versus the equalized property value.
But they can and will fluctuate.
As well as the portion that each municipality has of the district's equalized value. The village and the town are never going to match exactly that percentage increase each year.
Yeah, and I think it was good to see the collaborative work that was done between the village and the town and the district in order to get the right information out and good information out, at least to answer most of the questions. Good.
Yes, we wanted to bring it forward so the board, and we know you're getting questions. Some of you reached out individually to myself or to Topher. As we said, we've had residents reach out to us and reiterate what Topher had said. Like, you know, when we were able to get really quick responses from both the village and the town leadership on various questions that we had, and that's really great to work together with them on these pieces. So thanks to Topher for his work. This took up a lot of time this past week. Things you think you're going to work on, and then this was not one of those things. And than it was. So we're trying to just let everyone know what's going on. So if other questions arise, please let us know, and we'll look into more of those. Carrie, you took the notes for those couple questions that Paul had, and we'll get you information on that for that. So,
okay, any other questions? Budget calendar.
All right, so in your packet you have a 18-19 budget development calendar. It will be pretty similar to last year's calendar. There are a few adjustments. We're already taking a look at the calendar right now. We were originally going to plan to do that in January and have the budget projection in February, but we're moving that up to January because of my attendance at the federal funding conference. And then as you work down the calendar, you can see the personnel pieces that start to get put together in March and in April. The preliminary budget that gets presented in May and then approved in June. And then as you move through the summer in August, where we're approving the published budget, we'll have the annual meeting in September. And then, as always, waiting until October before we receive final budget information from the state so that we can finalize our budget and certify the levy at the end of October.
Good. Yeah, we've aligned our nuts and bolts and our district leadership team times to these as well, so that as you get closer to these things, there's personnel requests, there's class lists, all those pieces will be matching this calendar as well. We've matched that up.
Very good. Okay, any questions?
Mr. Mansai and Mr. Durst, I believe.
Good evening, everyone. As Jeff indicated, I also have Bryhan here with me tonight, our Communication Arts Department Chair. And we are bringing forward a couple of additional name change proposals to the Board of Education. In the memo which you received at the end of last week, what we basically outlined for you is that with our Literature and Composition 9 course and our American Literature and Composition, our 10th grade course, there are 3 variations of the course that students are placed into, and those variations were identified as an experiences course, a perspectives course, and a visions course. And based on that placement, there are varying or progressive levels of depth that the students get into, visions being the most depth that students will cover within the course of that grade level in communication arts. So in conversation with the Communication Arts Department involving our school counseling department as well and administration, we really took a look at wanting to rename our Literature and Composition 9 Visions course to Literature and Composition 9 Honors, and at the 10th grade level, taking American Literature and Composition Visions to American Literature and Composition Honors. And this is quite simply looking at the transcript that students leave here with. It becomes far more transparent for our post-secondary institutions that these students were involved in taking a rigorous honors level course, and we certainly believe that making that more transparent and using the term honors, those institutions will recognize the level of rigor that our students have completed. And the Communication Arts Department felt that this is something that we wanted to push as early as next year. That's why we're coming back a month later after we just presented some name changes. So they've been coming out of conversations that we're continuously having with Communication Arts. And we wanted to get that proposal in front of you tonight, as well as then adding those courses to the course book with their unique description of Literature and Composition 9 Honors and American Literature and Composition Honors. So we would ask for those changes and allow us to put that into the course book as well. And Bryhan, is there anything else that you wanted to add, or any questions at all for us?
Just
We just started with the question of what's best for kids. And so the question comes up, especially through the counseling department and what they have to do, and then what we do through the Common App for our kids going off to college. That's one of the questions on the Common App form is, did the students take any higher level courses, or what was the level of rigor in each of those courses? And until they hit AP, the AP Lang and the AP Lit in our department, we have to go back and say, yes, this was an honors level course for freshman and sophomore year if they were in those courses. So it just makes sense to just to be consistent with other districts do and with what colleges would expect in the language. That's really the difference, without changing anything else as far as how we approach the courses, how we teach them, what's involved in them. We obviously push our kids at a high level and just want to give them the chance to identify that in their transcripts.
Does this, I assume this is retroactive? If somebody took one of these classes and they're a senior now, that their transcript would reflect this, the new course name change, since there's no change in curriculum?
Yeah, we had not talked about that at this point. So really, we were bringing this forward as far as moving it forward. Certainly part of a conversation that we could entertain if the board wanted us to have that conversation.
I mean, I would just say if you're a junior now and you took, these classes, I mean, they'd have that same issue, right? I mean, they wouldn't get the...
We can look into that.
Yep.
I don't know how that...
Yeah, we can ask the counseling department that question.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I know that when the colleges look, they'll go online to our course book and actually look to see what it says to compare that as well with the transcript. So that's retro. I don't know.
As it wasn't listed in our course book prior.
I think you could probably you might be able to do it for this year's freshmen and sophomores. I don't know if you could retro, but we could.
We certainly look into it.
We could look into that and get you an answer, and we'll share that with the board.
Yeah.
Is there a significance to the 9 that stays in? Is that only freshmen?
It is a freshman level course, the Lit and Comp 9. And then the next levels are identified by American and then World. So that's what makes them different, is just the content that's being covered with American and World. Okay. All right.
Do we need a motion?
Thank you very much.
I'll make that motion to approve the course name changes.
Further questions for Scott or Bryhan? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Thanks, gentlemen.
So I'd like to thank Brian and his team for their work.
So, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for staying.
Yes, so we have 3 gift reports tonight, 2 in our tech ed area and 1 in our fine arts area. So from the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America, there is a $1,500 cash donation that was for the construction program and Kevin Gain, as well as North Central States Regional Council of Carpenters. And they made a cash donation of $3,515. And so this was through the work of Harold Klug. And you remember Harold coming to some of our presentations earlier and being instrumental in working with our tech ed department to try and bring some donations to that area, especially the woodworking areas. We have new spaces for them, remodeled spaces, writing a classroom for metals and woods to use, but then there's some remodeling going on in the woods area, so this will be able to purchase new equipment for that area. So it's $5,015 going towards that area. And then our final one is from Chuck and Linda Wiedner, who are donating a Story and Clark upright piano, estimated at $900 to John Long Middle School for them to utilize.
We have a motion to accept the gifts.
So moved.
Second. Questions for Jeff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Fantastic. We keep getting great gifts.
Yep, and we will continue to send thank you on behalf of the district to each of these people and the work that they're doing with our staff, which is greatly appreciated.
The construction update.
Yes, so it's getting cold, and so we're starting to, things have slowed down a little as they tried to adjust to the cold temperatures, and Craig had talked about the quickness of Kennedy going up, and that took a couple days now to put, what's that called that they put on there? Then they heat it up, so that plastic?
Yeah, right now they have to encapsulate the masonry with viscrete. It's basically winter. So it's going to slow down, but that's for the temperature-wise.
And yeah, but there's still, work is still ongoing. We were fortunate to have nice weather, so we were able to move forward pretty quickly. If we had another week, we'd probably be done. I'm at the high school with that classroom and the new metals area there, with some of the gym being done. The loading dock is basically done. They put the roof in and so forth, but a lot of progress being done. You'll notice that there are ceiling tiles that are down in the high school, and they've done that because of winter break is coming. So I'll have Jamie talk. There's going to be a lot of work done now over winter break, and to be able to make some runs and do some various things, you need to be able to get the ceiling tiles down. And so I'll have Jamie talk about some of those things that are coming up.
So like Jeff mentioned, that by the end of next week, we will have the complete roof sections on the gymnasium at Woodview and the high school, along with the corridor at the high school. So that gives us the ability to heat those spaces. So anticipating there's about a foot, a little more than a foot of frost in the ground right now, so we need to remove that so we can start pouring concrete, I would say, between the first and second week of January in those spaces. And then we will move over to the receiving areas shortly, so by the time that we meet next, we should have concrete floor. And over winter break, about 75% of the high school will be shut down. And Mr. Manti and Mr. Gearing have worked with the athletic department. We're going to move a lot of their practices over to the middle school because we're going to be doing abatement throughout the high school. Along with that, we have started today. You could probably smell it if you walk down to the commons. We're welding roof supports in the receiving area, the commons. So a good portion of the commons ceiling tiles will be removed by winter break. Also, the metal shop, like Dodge, his office, will have to relocate these areas. And the reason why they have to add roof supports in the existing building is because the new structures are going to be higher than the old structures. So there's basically snow load. So that's why we have to add these before we move on and can utilize these spaces. So as you can see, if you do walk down to the receiving area, you're going to see a lot of conduit. Eli Electric's already running conduit during the school day. Mr. Manti has allowed that, and it's worked out fine. Kids are very respectful. And all of the schools, including John Long's, which I have mentioned, we will start working inside the building with the fire system over winter break.
At the last meeting, didn't you also mention that in one of the elementary schools there was going to be some work going on, second shift? How is that going so far?
That is correct. Right now we have worked in the tunnel, and Mr. McMahon has allowed us to do some work in the boiler room and temporary wiring above the ceilings during the school day. We worked around his classes. So things are going real well.
Any questions? Thanks, Gene. Anything to add, Mr. Nelson?
Nope, that is it.
I'll ask for a motion to convene a closed session to consider performance-related data of the superintendent or which the board has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This is in accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 19851C. What happened that motion? So moved.
Second.
Chair Mitty, yes.
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 Yes.